Very good evening to all of you. On behalf of AOC in India, I welcome you all for this webinar on rare disease. As you all know, the last day of February of every year is celebrated as Rare Disease Day. It is mainly to improve the knowledge about rare disease in the community. So on behalf of the Rare Disease Day, AOC in India is conducting this webinar, and I welcome all the esteemed faculty and the delegates for this meeting. I'll request President Dr. Chappali Gulati to take over.
Thank you. Welcome you all. Something which is important for rare diseases, which is always called neglected and orphan, is something which I don't like about it. And I think these two terms have to be discarded, not only put into the recycle bin, but delete them. We will be understanding what are these rare diseases, and our obviously focus is on those with neurological manifestations. But we would like to know all others. We have a group of experts who are from all over India and SAARC countries and even beyond, who will be able to share their experience with us. Last year, the theme of the rare disease was show your stripes. Like the zebra, you have different the thing, and now this year they have continued further is for the show your colors. So I think we should not be called them orphan, and we should stop living like this, and together we are stronger and achieve more. This was our logo which we put yesterday. Can I have the next slide, please? So we have basically questions. Kaushik, next slide, please. We are going to address various aspects on rare diseases, and even on the brochure which we had, the panel discussion one, as well as the other one which we had the previous slide. We have two QR codes. I didn't want it to change, Kaushik. Yeah, we have two QR codes. One QR code is of some webinars which we had done. I will be talking to you in the end. And the other one is we have of the professionals and parent support groups and parents. We had collated some videos and messages for you all. Next, please. So we have, experts today. We have chairpersons, Professor I.C. Verma, who is a father of rare disease in India, if I may call, and nobody needs, he doesn't need any introduction. Sir will be joining by 8:15. Professor Satish Khadilkar, sir is a very, very big name and father of neuromuscular disease, I may say. That will be the least. He's a wonderful neurologist. He has always been working a lot on neuromuscular diseases, and a wonderful, amazing teacher. We are very grateful to have their blessings. We would be joined by Professor Gagandeep, who is president of Indian Academy of Neurology. And, we are very much privileged to have Dr. B.S. Charan, Assistant Director General, DGHS, Ministry of Health, looking after the rare diseases, so that he gives us a government perspective. Dr. Vijay Shudani would be joining in 5 minutes. He's a senior consultant from Hinduja Hospital and really very senior pediatric neurologist from India. Dr. Biju Hamid is from GOSH. He looks after neurorehabilitation and will be joining soon. And Professor Madhulika Kabra is Chief of Genetics Division, Department of Pediatrics, AIIMS. And, if after Dr. I.C. Verma, any name which comes for the rare disease is Professor Madhulika Kabra, and she has been my teacher. Dr. Lokesh Lingappa is a very senior, again, a very senior pediatric neurologist in Rainbow Children's Hospital, and he's the president-elect in Association of Child Neurology. And Professor Shaheen Akhtar, she's also a senior pediatric neurologist from Bangladesh. Dr. Beena Prajapati started the pediatric neurology training in Nepal, and she's a pioneer in that, and she had undergone training at our department. Mr. Prasanna has been the founder of, the beginning of the crusade against rare diseases, and he formed the first parent support group, and now he's come so much forward, and he'll be talking about the journey. Mr. Samir Sethi, president of the Indian Rett Syndrome Foundation, has been working really hard for Rett syndrome and beyond. And Ms. Archana Panda, co-founder for the Cure SMA Foundation, has been working very closely with Mr. Samir on Rett patients and Archana on SMA. And we have a wonderful patient advocate, Shambhavi Ravi Shankar. I would request now Renu Suthar, and who's a EB member of AOCN and also a faculty in PGI, to be talking, starting the discussion along with Dr. Mahesh. Can we have the next slide? And Mahesh and Renu, please take over. Mahesh, you may ask the first question, please.
Good evening, all. I welcome you all along with the AOCN President, Dr. Shefali, as well as Secretary and team of AOCN. So we'll start this panel discussion with the first question. First question is that what is a rare disease? How do we define a rare disease? So this question will be addressed to our Dr. Professor Madhulika ma'am and our international faculty who is joining us. So they can define this according to the country they are working to.
We can start off with Dr. Madhulika, then we can
Yes,
have
ma'am.
Madhulika ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shefali, for a kind introduction and inviting me for this webinar. So if we talk of definition of rare diseases, it is very variable and it varies from country to country. Some countries would define it, say, 1 per 10,000 or total number of patients of that particular disease which are there in that particular country, depending on the population. So there is no uniform definition of rare diseases. US has something else, Japan has something else, WHO defines it differently. So no uniform definition. I think that's the bottom line. And I think the reason for this is that at least in the developing countries, we do not have epidemiological data available. Like from the denominator, if you want to calculate that what is the prevalence or incidence, it would be very difficult to get. So when this rare disease policy was also being formulated, there was a lot of discussion that what should we put as sort of like a working definition for rare diseases. So it was suggested, Dr. Verma is not here as of now, but it was suggested that maybe we can keep it something like 1 in 2,500 or 1 in 3,000, or we follow some other country's definition. But later on, it was decided that we would not define rare diseases as of now in the rare disease policy. And there was the group of disorders at that point in time which had some treatment. They were listed as rare diseases, but that was not sort of an exhaustive list. So it would change, and once we have more epidemiological data available, I think at that point in time we can give it a definition. But the issue is that it will be almost impossible to get a prevalence data in the absence of community-based studies. And you all know that diagnosis of rare disorders is a major problem. So no uniform definition, each country has its own definition. And I think in times to come, we have to come out with our own definition. So that's it for now, Shefali. Thank you.
Next slide. So the next question would be, what is the burden of rare disease in India? And what is the current scenario of rare disease diagnosis worldwide? Can Dr. Beena Shaheen answer this? Dr. Beena? Dr. Beena?
Beena, are you me?
Yes.
So I am from Nepal, so I don't know the burden of disease in India.
No, yeah.
Madhulika ma'am can take the first part, and second part you can have from our international colleagues together, like what is the status in overall.
Yeah, so it is like in continuation of the discussion which was initiated. So as I said, we do not have epidemiological data. So if you really want to see the burden of rare diseases, it can be sort of ascertained in two ways. One could be community-based surveys, and where we have a denominator and a large community screened for at least relatively commoner rare disorders based on a diagnostic criteria, and then you can have a burden of rare disease. Second way could be that for some of the disorders where you have newborn screening available, that would be the best way to actually assess the burden of rare diseases in India. And most of the disorders which are included in newborn screening have some kind of treatment available. So that these would be two ways to assess the actual burden of rare diseases in India. So we do not have data available on this, but having said that, there are data available for based on the newborn screening, which there were two projects which were done. One was by the ICMR, where we did have some data on the prevalence of inborn errors of metabolism amongst the high-risk babies. And the second one, which was done on 200,000 babies as a part of a newborn screening project, which was led by Dr. Thelma and Dr. Seema Kapoor from MAMSI. These were Delhi hospitals, and there, because the denominator was there, the overall frequency of inborn errors of metabolism was very high, something like 1 in 8,000. So we do have that cumulative data. And apart from that, there's some data available for something like hemoglobinopathies, which is actually not considered rare. And in the rare disease policy also, these have not been included because these are included in other programs. The data which is being collected as of now as a part of a rare disease registry funded by the ICMR, it is collecting hospital-based data and certain groups of disorders, which includes neuromuscular disorders also, and many of the lysosomal storage disorders and small molecule disorders, which fall in the purview of pediatric neurology. So we have to realize that this would give us the number of cases which are being seen at these referral institutions and the families who are seeking care. So in a way, we will get some idea about the numbers, but this would not give us the prevalence. So then maybe gradually, when we have more studies available, we may be able to have more data on rare diseases. And as I said, the commoner ones are neuromuscular disorders, lysosomal storage disorders, small molecule diseases, skeletal dysplasias like osteogenesis imperfecta, primary immunodeficiency syndrome. So all these are relatively commoner rare disorders which we see in India. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Beena, would you like to comment regarding any kind of registry, any kind of data which is available to your country?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. In my country right now, we are in very preliminary phase. So we don't have register now. We don't have register till now. But now we have just formed a rare disease association, and it is on the final steps of getting the legalized.
Thank you so much. We'll move to the next question. Since AOCN deals with predominantly pediatric neurologists all over the India, so next question is, what are the neurological disorders which we commonly see, although they are included in the rare disease list? I'll direct this question to Dr. Lokesh Lingappa and ma'am also.
Dr. Lokesh, please. Dr. Lokesh, please. Dr. Prashant, you can take over. Dr. Lokesh's audio issue. Dr. Prashant? Dr. Prashant Johri?
Thank you, ma'am. The common neurological disorders that we encounter in our setup that are listed in among the rare disorders list that we have for our country are primarily the neuromuscular disorders, which include Duchenne muscular dystrophy and the other muscular dystrophies. We have anterior horn cell disorders like spinal muscular atrophy, and then we have rare neurometabolic disorders, which primarily come with neurological problems, like small molecule neurometabolic disorders, urocycle disorders, GLUT1 deficiencies. So this is a big chunk that would be considered as a rare disease. So as Dr. Madhulika has already elaborated, we are still in the process of actually roping in more and more diseases that can be currently enumerated. The diseases that currently have treatment implications and which are listed here would be the neuromuscular disorders that I have already enlisted. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Prashant. We'll move to the next question. That is, since almost all of the rare disease are like they are very rare, there is lack of big data, there is lack of natural history data on these rare diseases, but still parents are thinking about treatment. So the next question would be this: is cure is a mirage for a rare disease, or we have diseases which can be cured or which can be treated easily among rare disease? So this question can be
Dr.
Madhulika ma'am.
Khadilkar, Dr. Khadilkar.
Dr. Yeah, Madhulika ma'am and Khadilkar sir.
Sir, you can begin. I'll add on if required.
Dr. Khadilkar sir.
Yeah. I think in the neuromuscular side, there are at least 2 diseases where there are lots of advances. There is some problem,
Yes,
at
sir.
least
Yes,
I-
sir.
Yeah,
Please
I
do
will
it.
I'll turn it off. And I think we can give examples of Duchenne muscular dystrophy and spinomuscular atrophy. 2 diseases where really from a time when there was absolutely no treatment, we have gone on to have so many changes. And there are some patients who actually receive the treatments and become better. So I think these 2 could be quoted as examples where rare diseases are finding more and more substance for the sufferers. And most of them are based on either genetic engineering of different types. Within Duchenne muscular dystrophy, there is this trying to change the molecules, trying to change the genes, and also approaches with stem cell therapy which are being looked at, but as yet not successful. So I think these 2 examples could be quoted as partial success stories. Issues are different, probably we'll come to them later on about the costs and the availability and things like that. But definitely there is a headway in some of the rare diseases in terms of treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
sir.
Dr. Madhulika, and then
Yeah.
Lokesh.
Okay, so in addition to what sir said, so for SMA, the treatment seems to be quite promising, particularly with gene therapy and the other two drugs, Spinraza and Risdiplam. And for DMD also, we have exon skipping. Most experience is with exon 51 skipping, and long-term follow-up is there. For others, it is not. And then you have the stop codon skipping drugs. So there, ataluren is there. So long-term follow-up is required, but yes, these treatments are now available and FDA approved. Other than these, there are other disorders, particularly lysosomal storage disorders, where enzyme replacement therapy is available. But then most of these patients who have significant neurological problems do not benefit with ERT because ERT does not cross the blood-brain barrier. For some of the patients like other lysosomal storage disorders where ERT is not available, or particularly one disorder which is MPS I Hurler syndrome, HSCT is another option. So we should keep this in mind that if we pick up many of these lysosomal storage disorders very early in life, like Krabbe's or even MLD, HSCT is one of the option, and which is sort of curative if it is actually if there are no sort of side effects and other problems, and if you have a matched donor. Other than that, there are enzyme replacement therapy for neuronoceroid lipofuscinosis, which is again a lysosomal storage disorder. And interestingly, now gene therapy for MLD has been approved and seems to be quite effective. You have treatment options available for adrenoleukodystrophy. And now very recently, today only, I saw that there is some drug approved for Friedreich's ataxia also. So I haven't gone in the details for that. And recent enzyme replacement therapies include Niemann-Pick disease also. It is both for A and B, but A is usually quite fatal. So B definitely, there are good results. So these are some examples, and there is one new almost every month. So a lot of things going on, and we are really hopeful. Yeah.
Lokesh, Dr. Lokesh Lingpa.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Actually, I think Dr. Madhulika has answered most of the questions. Overall, I think around 5% of the so-called rare diseases have some particular curative treatment. Most of the other ones, we still are looking into supportive treatment. And the curative treatment, what are available either for the something like Fabry's or Gaucher, and the enzyme replacement therapies, or nowadays there are some of these gene therapies which are coming into picture. including the rarer conditions like, although we don't deal directly with the hematological conditions the immunodeficiency disorders, there the genetic treatments are available. But for most of this one, Pompe's, Fabry's, and Gaucher, where you can use enzyme replacement therapy and they present to the neurologist, the experience of infantile Pompe's, I think, is difficult, but later onset Pompe's, you have a good response to the enzyme replacement therapies.
Thank you, Dr. Lokesh. I think I want to add 2-3 things. One thing is that we should not forget that they are children. So you have to look about general health and nutrition, and vaccination not forgotten. Second thing is that multidisciplinary supportive care is very important, which we forget and which depends upon varied involvements. Number 3, that DMD, when we are talking about these skippings, we should remember that this exon skipping which are there and the stop codon which is there for the stop codon read through and all, it is not that one single genetic defect, but there is a group of defects which is amenable to that, but that will correspond to roughly around 15% of the patients of DMD. Still, as many as 80 to 85% of them are not amenable to these definitive possible therapies, and they are not curative, the DMD at least, and even the SMA also, and even both of the SMA, which is a bit better situation, nothing is like, they're not magical. One should understand that. And but they are very expensive, and we have to look for more indigenous therapies to be seen. Renu and Mahesh, next please.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mahesh sir.
Next slide, please. I would like to request Dr. Satish Kadikal to answer this question. Sir, what is the present status of treatment options and drug development for SMA in India and worldwide? Satish sir.
Before that, I'll just welcome Professor I.C. Verma sir. Thank you for having joined, sir. Thank you very much. Need your blessings and support. We'll just go on and then we'll ask you for your comments. And in anywhere, sir, anything you want to add, when in between, you can please unmute and say. Verma sir,
So,
anywhere, huh? Anywhere you want.
One thing I want to add about DMD.
Please, sir. Yes, sir.
That if you take all the 3 exons for which is available, 51, 53, 45, the number is more than 10%. It will almost come to 30, 40%. Because it's 10-15% for each of the exons.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think there is no doubt that it's a disease. It does modify the disease. It does prolong life. It does reduce the risk for respiratory support. So I would not say that they are not effective. I mean, they are modifying, they are prolonging life 3 to 4 years. And in the absence of anything else, they definitely represent an advance. We cannot say there is not an advance.
Yeah, sir, I just said that they are not curative. I mean, they are not
Yeah.
curative, only that, so that sometimes the parents are feeling that they are curative. Sir, actually the prevalence of each is not very clear. So it is not that. They generally around 10 to 12% na, for each. So total, how much would be? I mean, I do not know, even for the nonsense mutation is much lesser, because depending on the number of patients we screen for the trials I was just talking about, because we don't seem to have much data from India for the prevalence of all these conditions. Specifically, sir, if you see all these 3 exon skipping, the amenable to exon skipping, there are around 109 of the situations. And for the stop codon, how much percentage it would be out of total? I think that would be just a calculated guess for India. What would you think? You think it will be around how many percent would be amenable?
I think at least I think we published on paper on about 1500 DMD, and there has been 1 or 2 papers after our paper. So I think the data is there. Somebody has to look into. I cannot give you specific number, but my impression is that it's about 10-15% for each of these exons. If 45, they're about 10-12%, and 51, of course, is the commonest. 53 also is at least about 10%. So it will come
the stop codon one is lesser than that, right?
Sir, overall, I think
codon,
you are right. It would be around 30%.
Stop codon in the 30% where we don't find a deletion. Many of them are the stop codon.
Yes, sir, because they need a whole exome to confirm, right? And that would be there. And point is that means the more, but still the message was to go that around 70% will still require only the standard of care. Dr. Khadilkar, sir, you would like to give your impression about this prevalence of these, definitive therapy amenable percentage of DMD?
Yeah, I somehow have a feeling that it is on the lesser side than 30%. I mean, we have a data of about 2,000 odd people, and I think it's somewhere around between 20 to 25% each, all put together. It's a little less than what Dr. Verma said, but it's close to that. Yes.
So basically 20 to 30%. I mean, that is what, right? That's why.
Yeah, I mean, and like Dr. Verma said, these are all, or like you said, these are all gross estimates. So we really don't.
No, these are actual numbers based on the
Yes,
results
these are actual numbers.
published in the
Of
literature.
small collections. Yeah.
The numbers are small. See, our case was about 1,200 or so.
Right.
Because I think this paper after us is also about 1,000.
So I think we will also take up our data and see, ma'am. We'll do that.
Yeah, sir, this is, as you are right, see, all these three come in the hotspot region. At least 51 and 53 come in the hotspot region.
And
So I think the
45
paper you are
45
referring, yeah, sir, the paper you are referring to, a commentary was also written by our group. And if I also remember, it was around 30% if we calculate everything, maybe, I mean, somewhere near that. But the data is available, sir. I mean, first publication, the old one also is available, again, from our group when sir was here. And then there is data available, sir.
The only thing is, ma'am, the old ones will not have the nonsense
MLPA.
codon, because
Yeah,
that
and we
time
do
the
not have
exome was not
sequencing.
there.
I agree. I totally
But the
agree.
only message which I feel we should give it is still majority of them still needs, I mean, all of them need standard of care. For majority of them, still only standard of care is available along with steroids. I mean, that one thing should just remember that.
Definitely.
Yeah. This question on SMA is SMS. Yeah. Dr. Khadilkar, sir, you were going to
Yeah,
answer.
I think there was a recent paper which is as yet unpublished, where 62 countries representatives were participated, and they looked at the standard of care of SMA in various countries. And if I'm not mistaken, out of 62, there were only 20 countries where the participants said that the treatment was well available and was being provided. So the scenario all over the world at the moment is that most countries know that there is a treatment, but availability of the treatment, the cost of the treatment, in 2/3 of the participants of that survey, they thought that they're not able to provide the SMA treatment. Coming to India, I think we are one of those countries at the moment where we do not have a free access, nor do we have those that sort of finances. There are occasional cases where with crowdfunding and other things people have received, and on trial basis that Dr. Shefali Gulati was a part of, and there are some other trials. So a minority receive it, either through some support, which is private, or through research settings, but it's not very widely available. Also, I think if I could make a comment on the Duchenne muscular dystrophy and steroids, it's slightly out of context, but can I make a comment on that?
Yes.
Again, the Asian Oceanian survey, there was an Asian Oceanian survey of neurologists and pediatricians who treat Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And only half of the participants said that they give steroids. So there is so much variation in how we practice things. So I wanted to point it out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question, can we take the next slide? Yeah. So the next question is a common scenario, which is recently is a hot topic also. So we have a Master D is a case of Duchenne who is non-ambulatory at present for 3 years, and he wished to know that if there is any new treatment option is available for India for him or worldwide. So I'll direct this question to Khadilkar sir, Dr. Lokesh Lingappa.
Sorry, I didn't get the question fully.
So he is a non-ambulatory boy with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and he wished to know that if any treatment is available for him and what is the effectiveness of that treatment.
Does he know his genetic defect? Is his genetic defect known to him?
So possibly this is a hypothetical scenario. Is a boy with
Okay,
DMD. Possibly he has a exon skippable variant in his
right.
genetic diagnosis.
Yeah, I think the point that you're making in this question is that he's wheelchair bound.
Right, sir.
And I think that whenever the Duchenne muscular dystrophy reaches an advanced stage, things are very different. And then you generally lean more towards conservative treatment, which, like Dr. Gulati mentioned a while ago, the good nutrition, the physiotherapy, supportive care, cardiac care. And there will be fewer situations in a wheelchair-bound individual where for a more definitive treatment, even if the genetic report says so.
So I think, not take that negative a view. I think we still should advise them to get the DNA studies, number one. So if they, one of the known exons for which treatment is available, I think they should be given, because it will prolong their life. It will reduce their need for respiratory support in the ventilator, and it also improves the heart function. So you get 3-4 years of extra life. For these people, it is important, because they've been waiting for so long. And here I find it does help, because this there's one thing I might mention here, that the DART group in Bangalore, they are able to make oligos even for those non-3 exons, but they cost more, because the company abroad have not taken up the other exon, because they are not bothered to make it. They are only interested to make money and take only the common where there is more patient available. But these people will make for you if even if it's not one of the 3, and then they will charge more, but which is of course much less than the Western standard. The Western cost is about 50, I think 60 or 70 lakhs per year, while their cost is almost 10 to 15 lakhs. So I think if they can afford at least 10-15 lakhs a year, it is worth giving. And plus,
probably,
of course,
like Dr. Verma, probably I didn't word myself well. I didn't mean to say that we have to go very negative, but I think an advanced boy is different from a boy who's newly diagnosed in terms of what one can achieve at the end of whatever one can do. Depending on what the family wants, I think one has to discuss and offer everything, but the yields will be different. That's what I meant.
Yeah, you can't make him walk, but certainly you can improve and prolong life. You can improve.
Sir, I agree, sir, but one problem is there. Obviously, we are now tasking through ICMR and all, we're trying to have more, made in India kind of molecules and all, because if they have, then that will be the only way to bring the cost down. Actually, I'll just tell you, sir, why the dynamics, it is very clearly shown, yes, that, obviously the respiratory function support and the cardiac thing will remain better and they'll have good quality of life. So I agree completely with you. The only problem is the dynamics. If you see the cost dynamics would be, sir, like for a 30 kg child, I've just calculated what comes is, for the atallure and nonsense mutation, it comes around 3 crores a year. For the others, it comes around between 6 to 8 crores per year. The point is that then the point is, when you have to give, everybody should, when you're feeling from the heart, when we are feeling from the heart, we have to give hope and improve. The only thing becomes logistics to actually give it to them. So we have been seeing and struggling for that. Even like the SMA has a better efficacy kind of picture, but with Zolgensma being 16 crores, with the Spinraza, sir, first year it is 4.1 crores I calculated, and the second year onwards is 2.1 crore lifelong. So total Spinraza cost will be more than your Zolgensma cost. Plus, the third thing is that the Risdiplam, when it came into India, it was 2.1 crores per year. But now with their Blue Tier program, it is 72.8 lakhs. And this is for a 20 kg child every year. The only thing is the costs have been probative, sir. That means, I mean, they have the whole right. We have to very clearly, everybody has the right to live, fundamental right to live, and everybody has the access to healthcare required. The only thing is the humongous cost makes a dilemma for the whole the ecosystem to provide, and that is why we had those webinar series, which I will just mention in the end. So that is why, sir, we need and guidance and support to have the things developed in India. Don't you think, sir? That is the only confounder.
I think we are somehow going the wrong way, in the sense that we have to invest and make people make these antisense oligonucleotide. The technology
Yes, sir,
is
that
not
is
that
all.
difficult. Nobody is working
Yes.
on it except DART. Nobody is working. DART is working, but DART has no money to do a trial. They are stuck there.
That's true.
Government is not willing to give money for a trial. And while their cost will be only 11 to 15 lakhs per year.
Yeah. Dr. Khadilkar, Dr. Madhulika, Dr. Lokesh, anything? I mean, you agree with this scenario? Anything you want to add for them?
No, I probably just might make one more point, that our treatments, whatever we have today, at the moment have not reached a point where the quality of life really jumps and becomes close to normal. And that also needs to be considered in the total perspective, because if you look at it in a philosophical way, you are increasing the disability years as well. So when we get better treatments which really make you normal or close to normal, then I suppose one would go all out and say, okay, let's go ahead and do it. So that little dilemma also remains.
So this is more so
because
for
there are
DMD
treatments that
with rather than SMA, right?
it's less for SMA, yes.
Yeah. Ma'am, you want
Yeah. So it's to get treatment in case it is possible. But as Dr. Khadilkar said, at least for, as I said earlier also, for the other two exon skipping other than exon 51, long-term data is not available. Most of the time they are relying primarily on the histopathological improvement by immunohistochemistry, and short-term data is available. And as Sir said, there's definitely some improvement in their ambulation status also, but all the studies which have been published are on children who are ambulatory and in a relatively good state. There are criteria in which these children have been included. And as Sir said, even there are studies on non-ambulatory patients also, and they say that there is and they compared it with the patients who are the untreated controls, and they found that there is definitely a slower decrease in the cardiac function, and the pulmonary function tests and other comorbidities are much lesser in those patients. So in the best scenario, if we are living, then definitely, all patients should get it. But then as of now, as of long-term data for all the drugs, particularly for DMD is concerned, the data is limited. So that's what I just want.
Dr. Udani, please. Dr. Udani and Dr. Lokesh, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I think just a quick this one. Professor Francisco Montoni was mentioning one of his talks that in absence of any definite very good supportive care. So many of their follow-up patients survive till 20 to 25, and many of them at college as well. This is without specific treatment. That tells a lot about how care can improve the overall quality of life and children. Apart from all the other things that has been discussed.
Thank you. Can we go to the next question, Renu? Next question is very important, and I will read it. Of parent support groups in and promoting self-advocacy in children with SMA and DMD. We have three very prominent people who have worked and started this revolution, and the total landscape of rare disease has changed. So I will request Mr. Prasanna, followed by Mr. Samir, and then Archana Panda to talk about it before we go to the self-advocate. Mr. Prasanna.
Thank you, Madam, and for providing this opportunity to be first couple of patient selling, supporting and giving guidance, and also support group is like Google or a one-stop solution for all the parents, because when they go to the doctor, they get mostly advice on the treatment, but there are many things beyond treatment, beyond medical things, which the parent would like to know, and all those information available from a patient group. Then discussing and evaluating information, especially these patients, parents will have different questions and confusions, especially from the WhatsApp and Google universities. And we help them in clarifying those doubts and navigating them to the right information center, right, the facility. And also it's gives a collective work, molding them that what is the need for our patients, children's, and what we should do on a long-term basis, and educating them on advocacy need. How do we talk to the policymakers? Why advocacy is required and why awareness is required? Because many times he says, why should I come and talk in public? And what is that? Awareness makes difference. And discussing the success stories of other patients, learning the best practices, because mother and father don't agree on certain things, and there is where they'll be able to make decisions. And then fundraising, supporting, and also many parents group we can provide counseling, personal meetings, which reduces their stress and burden. Many things. Without a parent support group, it is very difficult, especially in a country like India where they don't have complete holistic support system. I think parent groups makes an important role. And most importantly, it also helps in a regional, if there are more number of patients in a particular region, it helps the doctor also to get more expert in these rare diseases, because only when the doctor treats more number of patients of a particular condition, they will also understand because when they see different ages, that again helps us and as a mutual benefit, which I feel. And more seen worldwide, the patient support group who has invested, like Dr. Verma just now mentioned about the DART and other things. Even many groups in India itself have started investing research and development, gene therapies. I think those are the outcome. And finally, if you look at most of the orphan drug worldwide, initially most of them are initiated by a parent support group, later on overtaken by a company for funding reason or something. And who will focus on those rare disease when we talk about very few in numbers? Obviously the parent group who takes the lead, tells the word that we are also here and we are important part of the society, and then society comes. And I always say that it is always society, that is Samaj, then the Bazaar and the Sarkar. That means when the society parent groups make the society aware, then the Bazaar comes. That's the marketing. That's when companies comes, investor comes, doctor, hospital comes, and then finally the government comes and chips in Bazaar and forming the policy. Thank you.
Okay, I think Prasanna ji, you made things very simple for me because you've covered most of it. But I would just like to add that, if you look at it from a individual parent's perspective, the moment, first, of course, is the odyssey of, the long waiting time that he has to go through before he actually is able to get a diagnosis. And somehow when he spent that, as an average, we say about 7 years to get a diagnosis, a clear diagnosis for the rare disease. Now, after a rare disease has actually been diagnosed, the parent gets a feeling, or the patient gets a feeling that, yes, this is a positive step. Now I know what the problem is. But in fact, the next news that the parent or the patient gets, that yes, you've got a diagnosis, but you don't have a cure. You don't have a treatment which is available right now. And you have to live with this for right. And that's where the parent and the patient, or parent or the patient, is shattered totally. And this despair is going to be there for rest of their life, as because the moment they get to know that there is no treatments which are available, they're totally shattered and they don't know what to do. Where do they go? And that is where then I would say the superstitious things start coming in. The social stigma steps in. The challenges, the financial challenges, which the family has to accept and continue for as you know for probably the rest of their life, further burdens the patient and the caretakers and the family with not being able to see what are they doing, where are they heading for. So as Dr. Shefali is saying, very right, you need a multidisciplinary approach towards the patient in most of these rare diseases. But the question is that the parents are not able to understand that even if we do this, what is it that we are going to gain at the end of the day? Is it that the patient is life is prolonged, but as Dr. Khadekar says, if the disability still continues or the challenges still continue with them? So, there is a very difficult balance which the parents have to make. And that is where the parent support group steps in. They start building up that hope to say that, no, this is not the case. Now that there is a diagnosis, there is definitely work which is being done. So we are able to provide them with the information, the correct information about what research is happening, where things are moving positively, how we can collectively start working to make sure that things start fall in place. In the interim period, before they get an actual treatment, what are their rights? How do they exert those rights? How do they achieve those possible options which they have for themselves? So I think the parent support group plays a very, very important role in being able to make sure that the parents don't fall into that, a kind of a regressive phase and start, there is no hope for us to be able to do anything about it.
Thank you, Mr. Samir. Before Archana, I request Dr. Satish Khandalkar, sir, who is traveling tonight and who is gracious to have spared his time to give some messages before he leaves. Thank you, sir, for joining despite you being on travel.
So firstly, thank you very much for asking me to be here. And I think it's an absolutely fantastic program that you have got together. There is so much work to be done on rare diseases. You sort of started the ball rolling by looking at awareness of people, awareness of doctors, forming a chain towards diagnosis, then the different treatments. So there's a lot to be done. And of course, with everyone together, with time and efforts, we will reach somewhere. So thank you very much again for asking me to be here and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir. Grateful to you, sir. Thank you. Archana.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for inviting me to this very important program. So I think Prasanna ji and Samir ji, what they have said, I totally agree with them. If I talk about our organization and also SMA specifically, the role that patient support organization plays is really very huge, because the moment the patient is diagnosed, the parents are in a mode as to why me, why this happened to me, etc. So counseling comes in at that time, and then also, as Prasanna ji said, you're not alone, that kind of feeling. So there you're saving the time of a parent getting into depression and this dilemma of denial that, oh, I mean, why it happened to me, etc. You're saving their time. Also, because of the information, and because as an organization we are engaging with the pharmaceuticals and the government, and we know what programs are running where, which hospital, which doctor. So we try to connect. And since SMA being a progressive life-threatening disease, and especially the SMA type 1, they hardly have time in hand. The moment we know there is a patient diagnosed, and if there is a provision for some kind of programs which are running, the compassionate use program or the GMA program for gene therapy, we try to immediately connect this patient to the right doctor, to the right place, nearest hospital and doctor, so that they are able to access those, available, because the drugs are so expensive. If you can access these free services which are provided by pharma, so then that makes the parents' life much easier and the patient is safe. So apart from that, engaging with the government and stakeholders, and for example, engaging with the pharma, and we track as to what they're doing, even if they're coming up with some trials or maybe something. So convincing the global pharma in order to saying that this is India, we are also here and we are a developing country, we don't have anything. So can you please bring your program to India? So, things like this also are done by the patient support organization. Convincing the global becomes very difficult. I remember we doing some workshops in Roche, headquarters, and connecting the global and telling them our patient journeys. And especially in case of SMA, we always feel proud to tell everybody that, look, these are very brilliant, intelligent, children who deserve to live. Why should you leave them to die? They are national assets. They are all achievers. Why can't we save them? So sensitizing the stakeholders also becomes, our job. Apart from that, once we have the medicine in India, the approval process, sensitizing the drug control authority also for accelerated approval. And then once we have the drug in India, then funding is a problem. We don't have the funds. So now collaborating with the crowdfunding platform like Impact Guru, not that we are doing the funding or something, but at least we are ensuring that the right patient gets the right medicine, because there were some parents who were raising 10-year-old child, they're raising funds for Zolgensma. And he told them, you can't do this. You cannot give a wrong medicine to the wrong patient. Now the Impact Group people are business people. They don't understand these, nitty-gritties of the medicine, which is applicable to which type, etc. So we try to collaborate with them as a knowledge partner, tell the right patient, right medicine, etc. And the dosage also. So, our role also comes in there. And finally, fighting again with the government for exemption of taxes, GST. Now, there is so much confusion within the ministry about the import duty and the GST. They don't understand. I myself have been to the CBIC headquarters, GST Council, as well as the Revenue Department, Finance Ministry, telling the chairman office, look, when you are having a drug in India, in Indian rupees, why should I import in US dollar? Because even if you exempt my custom duty there, I still end up paying higher amount than what I have in India. So, these are the things that kind of important roles, including, we have examples like, for example, when patient got medicine in Gangaram, probably in Delhi, compassionate use program, and they had to take this medicine, Vistiplam, at that controlled temperature to Bihar. So convincing the airline authority, Indigo, I had to write emails to Indigo and convince them, can you please allow them? So at every step, school education, denial of admissions, we have to write to the education ministry or the school, or kind of threaten them with the rules, law in place. So our role comes in as if like multidisciplinary is one thing, where the doctors' specialties are there for the SMA patient. The engagement is another big task for us, because there are several parents when they are alone, but when we go as an organization, it helps us to, a lot of, support is required at every step. This was just in short. I mean, can we just.
Thank you. Shambhavi, you can talk about your journey. Then before we go to the Government of India for what they have helped, how they are helping us. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Shefali, for inviting me and for having me here today. I echo everything that Prasanna sir, Sameer sir, and Archana ma'am said. As a patient, I don't have DMD. I have Alagille syndrome, which is also a rare disease. It affects multiple organs, but for me, mainly my heart and my liver. And I have had a neurological event, spinal surgery, because of complete paralysis of the body. And so I come with several hats. One as a data point, as a patient, with experiences on navigating, education, job, the healthcare system here in India. But I also come with some legal, mostly on digital health interventions. And then the third sort of lens that I come in is from a very human lens. So far in my journey, thanks to Prasanna sir and everybody else here, I've been able to share my story and speak to families one-on-one or in large groups, both in India and abroad. And I've been able to dispel myths and kind of give a very realistic perspective on what it's like to live with a rare disease. Realistic meaning it's not always positive. There are days that are bad and you have to waves, as and when they come. But how to manage your expectations, manage societal stigma, manage your own hopes and aspirations, so that you are a meaningful contributing citizen to the country. the journey has been rocky. I had a diagnostic odyssey as well of about 5 years. It took a long time, way back in the early 90s, to get a diagnosis itself. And then post that, you know, the nutrition and the therapies and things to manage the condition to reach quote unquote normalcy, whatever that means for me specifically. And then from there, you know, just navigating, advocating for myself, learning how to explain my symptoms as a patient, learning how to set boundaries, how to push myself. At what point do I step back and take rest? As a person, as an individual, to learn these tools on how to articulate has been on my learning. Agree more with what Sameerji said, you know, about once you get the diagnosis, how do you live with the condition? And often I found simple storytelling to be the way in which you bridge that, you know, health care gap, you know, where you share, this is what worked for me, this is what did not work for me. And patient support groups like here today are huge for such knowledge transfer. And I just want to sort of step back in terms of agenda, that is, really do talk to patients. Each person, you know, is affected by the same disease very differently. So my symptoms might be mild versus someone else with Alagille syndrome. An Alagille syndrome patient might have a milder manifestation than an SMA patient. There are so many variations that you need to look at before you set policy and before you know, allocate budgets and things. And so I strongly hope that this platform connects, you know, the policymakers with patient groups even more deeply than it's already connected. Thank you.
I think I would like to say a few words. So
Please.
I know that the various NGOs, they work under very difficult conditions, but I think, in my opinion, they are not doing enough. I think they have to put their voice and raise funds for research. They have to force the government to direction to do this. They are not doing that. They just sort of chicken off by, they raise their voice. But you know, say the PPP organization in the US, how many millions they have raised the money? The organization in Netherlands, Dr. Vroom, Elizabeth, the money they have raised. The UK, we are not raising any money. I mean, they must be raising, but at least I am not fully aware whether they raise money for research. I think, in fact, I was going to ask Mr. Shirole that why our NGOs are not raising money for research, and then identify the scientists, identify the experts, and ask them to work and do the development. Because we seem to be just relying on the government. Let the government do. The government, we are now clear. The government is not going on their own to invest in these high expensive drugs. But if you raise money, we have not raised many, we must raise crores of rupees. They should approach all the people in the high companies who are doing well, the multinational, the national companies, to give money from their social responsibility. So that's what I have to say. I think we must work. These parents, they are working. I must praise them. The difficult situation, but still they have to do more. They have to raise funds. They have to raise their voice. They have to keep shouting at the minister to get the money and get the funds.
Sir, I totally agree with your point. I think what you're saying is absolutely right. And I think at a personal level, I also I'm trying to, work around on that. I always say, if you find a hungry person on the road, it's not good to give him fish to eat, but it's good that if you teach him to fish, so that tomorrow he's able to do things on their own. And that is the same thing applies for us also in India. We are looking only towards the West in terms of getting treatments and getting solutions for the problems that we see in the rare disease community. But why is it that we we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Why is it that we are not looking at research in India? And I think it's a very important point that you are mentioning and putting up, to say that indigenous research is absolutely necessary. And I think, if we are able to hold hands with the researchers, with the scientists, with the clinicians, I think it is not difficult to be able to do that. So as a parent support group, the challenge becomes for us to know the technicalities in the research which is involved. But if we have some kind of support coming in from the researchers, coming in from the clinicians, I'm very confident this partnership can be actually translated to make research work within the country. We don't have to look at the West. We have the capabilities. I mean, if you look at it, sir, you look at the people who are actually doing the research, I would say more than 50-60% of them are Indians. It's the Indian brain which is working over there. Why can't that same brain work within the country and develop these kind of drugs for people? We are called pharmacy of the world, and we are neglecting our own children. We have no solutions for them within the country. It's a very sad state of affairs. And I fully endorse your point, sir, and I accept it that the NGOs need to refocus themselves and start looking for funding. The funding should be not to support the parents individually, but it should be there to make sure that research is initiated for their respective diseases. I agree with you totally.
Thank you, Samir ji. I think I also agree with Dr. I.C. Verma ji. In fact, because of his mentorship, we started our journey in India, I think. But sir, I would like to tell you, I do, we work in a different environment compared to other countries. Number one, the healthcare system itself, primary healthcare. Our parents spend that first 100 rupees consultation from pocket till the treatment in lakhs and crores. Number two, the logistic challenges are different in India when compared to other countries. Okay, and parents in other country are not worried about much about the primary healthcare and the basic healthcare for the children. Okay, they only go, option for them is whether there is a treatment or no treatment. If there is no treatment, fundraising. They directly gets into that bracket. But here we have to start from A, B, C, D till we come to the research. Then the you talked about meeting the ministers or something. We take 6 months, 1 year to meet one minister. We wait months together to get an appointment. Till date we have not got any concrete appointments. It's just barge in and make our effort. And there itself we lose time. Then there is a lot of other support system which is available to a normal citizen which we don't get. And then more importantly, health is a state subject here. Okay, we have to talk to central government also, health state government also. And because of this, when the number of patients are spread out across in all the 30 states, the voice becomes very less. And if all patients have to come together to make that impact thing, traveling, it's not so easy in a country like India. But having said, I don't, there are many groups who have already raising funds and doing, research, especially in the case of DMD and other things. 3-4 groups have already made advancement in this. But another challenge in India is parents, in rare disease come to NGOs only who are from the lower economic background with certain expectation, clearly. Okay, most of the, we have many parents who are rich enough. One parent can in fact fund researches, but they don't come to the mainstream because of the stigma, because of the status. So obviously we deal with those lower economy patients and uneducated patients who are illiterate, where we start talking about ABCD. We spend a lot of time in that. And when you come to the research, these are not the parents who are inclined either in terms of contributing or getting the networking and other things. I think these are the challenges, but definitely agree. But finally, last but not the least, it is also the maturity of the patient group, which, okay, in India, I still see that groups are just emerging, evolving, and patients and all the stakeholders are realizing the importance of the parent support group, because still we are not empowered here. We are not part of any of the stakeholder. We are just one small element at the sitting or standing at the last mile. Okay, be it healthcare system, be it, we are not part of any decision making system. We are not empowered as a country, in this. I think these are some of the challenges, but I see very positiveness because the policy, whatever has come, all these days, some groups were also waiting, policy is coming and we will get treatment. Now we know that it is a partial policy, and there is, I think I see a lot of growth in next few years. that patient group will start working more on research development and other things, and even fundraising as an important activity. Thank you, sir. Thanks for it.
Sir, I would just like to say that we take inspiration. I mean, first of all, we agree with you and agree with Samirji and Prasannaji also here. We take inspiration from CureSME USA, and we have a strategic alliance with them, taking inspiration and all the knowledge from them. And they are the ones who funded the research for this first medicine for SME, which is Spinraza. So they have, collected funds and they have invested in drug discovery and all that. And again, I agree here with Prasannaji. In case of SMA, first of all, the challenges are so much. As of now, first of all, we are self-funded. We don't have anybody funding us. With this, whatever limited funds we have, we are trying to first of all manage the multidisciplinary clinics, few clinics in India and few hospitals, because drug is so costly. We can't give the drug. We don't have that much money, but at least the multidisciplinary care itself, 6 months, our parents can't even afford, this 6 to 7, 8 multiple doctors consultation, plus those tests, even like a lung function test and a bone density, it's like very expensive. Around 10,000 you got to spend every 6 months or maybe every 3 months. So we have to first of all arrange that, and then a BiPAP machine is required, and oxypulse meter, oxygen concentrator. So these are also taking so much. So it's like a treatment research it's a priority, but because of these very pressing issues, the research part comes little. But as of now, we are in a position where we have been able to talk to some of the scientists, some academic institutes. I'm right now sitting in IIT Kanpur and talking to the genetic department here. They are very positive, very happy to support, but it's just that we'll have to give them funds to do the research. So we are talking, taking baby steps on that area also. But yes, and as Prasannaji said, getting appointment from Health Minister, we could only catch him in Kerala. I can't catch him in Delhi. I haven't been able to get appointment with him. But at the same time, what we did was we sent him letters through MPs and MLA from all over India. Once they called me and said कि और मुझे फोन करके बोला है somebody from the DGHS department, बहुत लेटर भेजी क्योंकि उन्होंने अपॉइंटमेंट नहीं दिया हमको. To shout, I mean, and Dr. Atnapuri.
I understand. Yeah, really, Archana, that's been really a big fight, which has always been there.
But we totally agree. हमें करना है slowly.
बिल्कुल करना है. I think next slide करिए. It is very important कि अभी rare disease policy क्या है, national policy क्या है. That is very important for all of us to understand. Dr.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I congratulate and thank you that this wonderful webinar has been conducted, and thank you for inviting me in this workshop. I think most of the part pertaining to this rare disease have been covered by the various experts and our respected seniors. This question, coming to the national policy for rare disease and government policy for rare disease India, you know that national policy for rare disease finally at last finalized in 2021. So it is not relevant now, and it is not advisable to say that rare disease are now orphan disease, because there is some focal point and there is something that we can have a concrete plan for the rare disease. So NPRD comes into action since 2021, and then as in Rashtriya Arogya Nidhi, earlier there was provision that we should establish some center of excellence where we can have the facility for the diagnosis of these cases, because it required a bit different kind of instrument and expertise. So in NPRD itself, there were notified 8 center of excellences, and through Rashtriya Arogya Nidhi, there were provision for 20 lakh rupees for the diagnosed patients. That too for some specified group, but later it was raised to 50 lakh rupees per patient. So now, it's almost, I think, 1.5 years, more than 1.5 years, that NPRD is in place. There is provision for financial assistance to the diagnosed patient. There are 8 notified center of excellence, and in addition to that, which is earlier that was notified in NPRD, we have visited to increase the accessibility, because it's the first step where patient will approach. So we tried that it should be geographically accessible. So 3 more center of excellences have been added till now. That is, one is AIIMS Jodhpur, then SAT Kerala, and ICH Chennai. And in addition, so now there are 11 center of excellence where this part of diagnostic equipment, their support, and if patient will diagnose, there is a mechanism that financial assistance will be provided. In addition to that, still, these 11 centers are not very accessible if we see the size of our country and sheer number of the population. So we are in a step to expand more COEs. So we have visited and waiting for the reply. There are certain criteria before labeling any institute as a center of excellence. So we are waiting the reply from the AIIMS Bhopal also, then JIPMER. And in addition to that, we have sent the letter, especially to the eastern part of the country. As you see, in our eastern part of the country, there is only in Kolkata, there is one center of excellence. Rest, it's a very vast area and getting a large number of our country's population. So proactively, we have sent the letter to RIMS and NIGRIMS in the Northeast region. Then we have contacted at Patna, then AIIMS Bhubaneswar, and soon we will send the letter to Rishikesh and one state like Gujarat. There is no, so we have sent the letter to the Chief Secretary. Unfortunately, we have get the field checklist, and soon we will visit the Gujarat also. So 7 or 8 center of excellence in next 1 or 2 months we will visit, and probably in this financial year, I say our target is that at least there should be 1 center of excellence in large state. So this is a good step. And now I think in addition to that, Central Technical Committee for Rare Disease, that is reviewing the progress, and if there is any, if need of formation of treatment guideline, if there is a consultation required for the case-to-case basis, or, now at least there is a point where, you may raise directly your voice. Maybe you didn't get the appointment of the minister, but in ministry in environment, or at least the name, that if I have to convey some of issues of rare diseases to the ministry, at least through these persons we may send our message. So that focal point have been identified. Dr. L. Swastikchand sir is additional DDG and our immediate supervisor. Along with that is a very small team at Nirman Bhawan. We are very closely working, and from our perspective, we can say there is a very good coordination among us. Right, it's our director Ravindra Prasad ji, or myself, or our consultant Asta, or our undersecretary Swarnendu Singh. So you have, if you have any issue, any suggestion, they are most welcome. We are proactively working very fast. Let you know that in the last year, there was no financial provision for the rare disease in approved at the initial of the financial year. So somehow in supplementary, budget estimate we have sent, and we got 25 crore rupees. So at the later part of the year, it is advised that you keep pace slow for the center of excellence, because once center of excellence is established, people will get more and more patient will come. And at that time, if we were unable to provide the financial assistance, then it will give a wrong message that now this institute has become a center of excellence. There is provision, but still we are not getting. So our task was not to interrupt that, but along with that, we have to channelize this funding mechanism. Fortunately, we at the ministry got 25 crores. So out of that, in this year, for the 134 patients, 22.2 crore have been transferred from the ministry. And for the next year, for the Center of Excellences, 5 crore each for each center for purchase of the equipment, diagnostic purposes that have been cleared. And we will channelize that mechanism that it should not be hampered, and flow of fund is to be maintained. And we are encouraging the COE also that you send your requirement of the fund, so we will be able to have some estimate. And at our side it will take some time, but we prepare it previously so that in later part of the year it will not be a difficulty. So these are the some development that has been made, and in addition to that, there is a lot of things that is to be done. I congratulate once again Madhulika ma'am is here, Saif Ali ma'am is here, and IC Verma sir is here. On this 28th at the we tried that our best. We don't have any budget provision under rare disease from the ministry, but we still get some fund and we organize that event. And fortunately, the best part of that event that all stakeholders are present there, and that was the platform that each and everyone raised their issues, concerns, suggestions in a very healthy environment, in a very positive environment, in a very friendly environment. So that is the basis that there is, now we have some roadmap, we have some focal point, and we have some vision that we may proceed. Yes, government is to be pushed. I am ready. In many occasions, I have heard IC Verma sir that government has to be pushed. So I can understand it's not the harshness of the word, it's the softness of the heart, and I appreciate that. And I'm ready that if any suggestion, any push from patient support group also, we will take it very positively, because all we are working in a team spirit and in a positive way. We will proceed. So I will be brief. And in addition to that, now the focus is, one is that to have the accessibility, we have to have more COEs. Then on preventive part, there should be involvement of the other stakeholders like gynecologists, radiologists, that how we can establish. Another issue was that in each and every COE, there will not be facility for the transplantation, like liver transplant or bone marrow transplant. So how we should coordinate with the COE with existing institute of the liver or bone marrow transplant. So soon we will have some discussion on that, and we will finalize that how we can do that. And in addition to that, ICMR is preparing the registry, so we will have the epidemiological data that will give us the insight and real-time basis, or we will have the exact our caseload. Then indigenous manufacturing of the rare disease indigenous manufacturing of the drugs for rare disease. Yes, there is discussion, and we will push it further in coordination with the CDSCO, that how could it be possible, what are the ways we can do it. So any suggestion on that, we will have the discussion and meetings, and if any suggestion that will be welcome. And last that comes for the research part, research for rare disease. So I think this comes under the domain of the ICMR, but I will have the word with that. If anything that can be done through the teamwork, we are always ready. So that is all from my side, and more or less I'm on that side that if there is any suggestion, we will quickly think about it, what best we can do, and we will proceed. That I can say from my team side. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charan. And actually, ICMR has already, had a call for proposals for innovations for having rare disease management options, and we'll be having the meetings in the middle of March for the. Can we have the next question, Renu, please? The next question is very, very important, and this is very important, is basically prevention. We'll just talk about prevention, and I think Dr. I.C. Verma and Dr. Madhulika to very briefly answer that, and we will after that bypass many of the questions which we have already answered, and we'll come to Dr. Lokesh Lingappa talking about transitional care and palliative care before we come to the end, and we have some videos to show you in the end. So Dr. Verma sir and Dr. Madhulika, we just wanted to just say that we have to understand, if 2 children of in one family, then that is a failure of the medical fraternity. So how we want to prevent them. So Verma sir and Madhulika ma'am, followed by Dr. Lokesh Lingappa for transitional and palliative care.
Yes, this issue of having a same affected child, same affected child, the child affected with the same disease. I think one reason is the delay in the diagnosis in the first child. Very often there is no diagnosis and then this child is born. So I agree with Shefali that this is a failure of our medical system. We have to make the doctor realize to diagnose these early. And as the Dr. Sodibri used to say and still says, first treat the family, first treat the child, and then treat the family. You first treat and then the child. In contact with the parents, has to convey to them, look, don't have another child without the testing, because it makes sure that at least managing one is, difficult anyway, and managing 2 becomes impossible. So I think this all I have to say about this. So it's a total failure of our system if this is happening again. And we have to put our heads together. I think we have to work through the Indian Academy of Pediatrics here and the Indian Academy of Neurology that, we have to tell these patients and guide them.
Thank you very much. So ma'am, you want to add something?
So sir has said this also. Basically, what we need to tell them is still, even now where now the awareness has increased as compared to the past, but still we do see multiple affected children in one family. So I think at least for the commoner disorders, all the pediatricians should be aware that risk of recurrence is there depending on the inheritance pattern. And most of the time, like in SMA, we have recessive inheritance, so 25% risk of recurrence. And in DMD, being an X-linked disorder, 50% of the mother is a carrier. So it should be a part of counseling. And though they're not available in multiple centers, but still there are now a lot of centers in the country which are offering prenatal testing. But as sir said, unless we make a diagnosis in the affected child and counsel the family and how to prevent the risk of recurrence, it is absolutely important. If you want to take care of the children who are already born, we would have to limit those numbers, because if we have more children affected with the disease, taking care of them would become more difficult. So I think this is a very important message which all the doctors who see these patients have to give to the family for preventing such births.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And in addition, we should also have coping strategies talked to them, told to the patients before they have a breakdown in the end. So I think we don't talk about transitional palliative care. Dr. Lokesh, please talk about that, please. Dr. Lokesh Lingappa.
Thank you. So transitional care is not a very well established system as of now in the Indian medical practice. At least for epilepsy, it's slightly easier because most of the adult neurologists do manage a lot of epilepsies on a regular basis. So somebody is 18, you can hand over to a particular specified neurologist. But there are very few people who would actually adult neurology team or support systems who work in the area of neuromuscular or neurometabolic disorders. So that becomes a challenge. And many of us, I think, agree that they will have. We try to postpone this transition as much as possible because you know them for long, they are comfortable. So you try to push it until 20 or maybe even longer. And I think if we have a established transitional care system from the beginning, it becomes easier for all of us, including the parents and the person who is affected, to do the transition. And it has to start from somewhere around 16 years of age. The talk should start about the transitional care, that this is the person who's going to look after, and maybe have a combined meeting with them before the formal handover happens. I think that is a system some of the Western countries have, but we sorely lack this formal transitional system. I think Dr. Shefali, if you have an organized system there in AIIMS or any other.
No, we don't. No, we don't have, Dr. Lokesh. I am trying to do that, and we'll do it from AOC and India and make it all across, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be something to be done. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next slides. Actually, we had a series of webinars with a financial grant from Global Genes, and we have this QR code of the book, as well as there's a QR code of all the 20 webinars, considering all the aspects. Can you just come to the next slide? We have to also have parent empowerment. Next, please. Parent empowerment. We have patient information booklet. These were all the 20 webinars which were there, and there's a QR code in that, in that book, which is there on the inner side of the cover. You can go through it. We had 128 analysts who were stakeholders from across the globe, from pharma companies, ICMR, government, all researchers, parent support groups, parents. Next, please. So I think that is important resource which was released by the Director AIIMS yesterday. And next, please. Next, beta. Next. Karte jao. So, you have parent information material. We have in DMD, SMA, and many other neurological conditions. Our colleagues from, they had taken and translated into Telugu recently. Anybody can ask, just write to us and translate into regional languages. We could do it only in Hindi and English, but we need your support. Next, please. Next, can you just, let's just go down and show the video. There's we came across one movie which recently, better come down and get that, which I think we all should see. This just a 2-minute trailer of that movie, followed by we have a small collection of video of parents and parent support group and stakeholders from.
कहाँ थे तुम? ऐसे पूछ रहे जैसे मैं भाग गई थी किसी के साथ। बड़ी देर रुक जाओ। बस कुछ दिनों की बात है, फिर भाग जाना। कोई सुनेगा तो क्या कहेगा? बेटे को माँ से बात करने की तमीज भी नहीं। मैं तो सिंपैथी वोट लेके चला जाऊंगा। बुरी तो तुम ही बनोगी। जिंदगी लंबी नहीं है। बड़ी होनी चाहिए बाबू धीरे-धीरे करके मेरे कानपुर, नागपुर, जबलपुर में हड़ताल होने लगेगी ना, तब मत आना मेरे पास बोलते हुए। सारी मशीनें क्यों लगा कर? मैंने उसके डॉक्टरी को ललकार दिया, इसीलिए डेकोरेशन। अम्मा, तुम्हें पता है मैं क्या चाहता हूँ? जब भी उसने मुझसे कुछ मांगा है तो मैंने उससे दिया है, लेकिन ये मैं उसे नहीं दे सकती। अपनी आखिरी सांसें गिनता हुआ एक लवेबल बेटा, उस बेटे की आखिरी ख्वाहिश पूरी करती हुई एक बहादुर माँ, और इमोशनल फैमिली ड्रामों का दीवाना हमारा मीडिया। आई थिंक जोर का झटका देने से लगेगा, राइट? तुमने सब कुछ पहले से ही सोच रखा है। टाइम थोड़ा कम है ना। मैं तेरी जिंदगी बड़ी बनाऊंगा, प्रॉमिस।
Good morning. The World Health Organization defines rare disease as often debilitating, lifelong disease or disorder with a prevalence of 1 or less per 1,000 population. They are also little known, little studied, and often lack adequate therapeutic options. They are often called rare diseases and orphan diseases because of their low desirability availability for clinical and experimental research, the word often is not acceptable. Every country has its own definition of rare diseases. The National Organization for Rare Diseases USA has described 1,109 such diseases, and the Office of Rare Disease, National Institute of Health, has described 2,117 such diseases, and the French Orphanet has suggested 500 such diseases. In India, a national registry for rare diseases has been initiated by the ICMR, and the rare diseases are defined in India as those which affect fewer than 1 in 2,500 individuals, and as many as 7,000 such rare diseases has been identified. In India, the rare diseases are grouped under 3 categories. The group A is amenable to one-time curative treatment like organ transplantation or hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. Group 2 requires lifelong therapy with relatively low cost involvement but requiring regular frequent follow-up, like specific dietary therapies. Group 3 are diseases which definitive treatment which is available in some of them, but it has high prohibitive cost, and lifelong therapy with challenges of selecting the optimal patient is very important, and the cost runs into crores. Public donations, crowd healing programs have been started, and the government has started a rare disease policy. The need of the hour is creating awareness about these rare diseases and facilitating multi-organizational efforts to help these patients lead a meaningful life. The Rare Disease Day is being celebrated on 20th February 2023. The theme last year was Show Your Stripes, and it's being continued this year as theme being Show Your Colors, encouraging people to show their support by sharing their photos, support cards and posters with multicolor background to show solidarity and support. These are definitely not announcement. We are all together and to help each child, each family, each person with these conditions. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The Rare Disease Day is a very important day because it brings to attention the rare diseases. People who suffer from rare diseases are, in a way, in a difficult situation because the general public, the doctors often do not know what disease the person is suffering from, and there is a lot of time that goes by before a diagnosis is made. Also, after the diagnosis is made, what treatments are available? How should one proceed? All these paradigms are not well set like they are in common diseases like cancer and heart attack and brain attack and things like that. So it is very important that this day is celebrated. Awareness is increased so that the people are at large know what is a rare disease, and the Association for Rare Diseases become more active and more prominent to deal with these people better. I'm very happy that Dr. Shefali Gulati has taken this initiative and the Rare Disease Day is being celebrated. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mesh, Secretary of EOC in India. The last day of February of every year is celebrated as Rare Disease Day. Rare diseases are those that are very uncommon in the community, not affect fewer than 1 per 2,000 people or less than 5 per 10,000 people. Though individually rare, collectively they are common. There are more than 6,000 rare diseases that have been described so far. Many of them are genetic in origin, and by widely available and affordable genetic tests, we can diagnose most of these conditions in our country. Many of these are not curable, but you can definitely care for these children. And many novel therapies like medicines, immunotherapy, and gene therapy are being described for many of these conditions. We can definitely prevent the occurrence of these diseases in the next century by doing proper prenatal diagnosis.
Hello, I'm Prasanna Shirod, co-founder and executive director, ORDI, Organization for Rare Disease India. We are into advocacy, awareness, early access to clinical trial, encouraging research and development, and patient support for all the rare diseases in India. Some of the main challenges of rare diseases are, most of the rare diseases are progressive in nature and makes it difficult to diagnose early and also arrive at a confirmed diagnosis. Only 5% of the 7,000 rare diseases have FDA approved drug, and only few are available in India. the cost of these treatments are very high and cannot be affordable to any of us. Fortunately, government now has announced a national policy for treatment of rare diseases in 2022. There is a financial support of 50 lakh rupees per patient one time for all rare diseases and for all. This is the highest amount given by the government for any diseases till now. However, this will not solve all the problem, but some of the conditions and one-time interventions like bone marrow transplantation, liver transplantation, and special diet for IMC, error of metabolism, then growth hormone injection, PID, etc. But there are other rare diseases which require long-term and very high cost of treatment, like SMA, Pompe, Gaucher, MPS, etc. I hope the government also extends support to these patients and families on priority and support us before we lose our loved ones. Thank you.
जेनेटिक काउंसलिंग करवाकर आने वाली पीढ़ी में बीमारी को आने से रोकें और कंप्लीट केयर एंड मैनेजमेंट पे पूरा ध्यान दें, तभी बीमारी के स्टेटस को मेंटेन कर पाएगा। तीसरा पॉलिसी मेकर्स के लिए कि वो सभी बीमारियों को रेयर डिजीज पॉलिसी में शामिल करें जो रह गई है, जैसे ऑल टाइप्स ऑफ डिस्ट्रॉफीज, और ग्राउंड रियलिटीज में बहुत डिफिकल्टी पेशेंट्स को रजिस्ट्रेशन में हो रही है, तो प्लीज ऑनलाइन रजिस्ट्रेशन का मोटिवेशन करें।
Yeah, this is a message for Rare Disease Day on my personal behalf and also from our organization, World Without GNU Myopathy. I am Alok Bhattacharya, Professor at Ashoka University, as well as in Managing Trustee of World Without GNU Myopathy. So our message is that we should come out with drugs, manufacture them in India, make them accessible to all the patients who are in India who cannot afford all these drugs. We should find new drugs that are not available for a large number of diseases and able to develop them in India. We want government to support development of drugs so that we can actually produce them in the country. We hope that Rare Disease Day really brings a change in the policy of the government. Thank you.
I am President of Indian Medicine Foundation, which is a parent support group for supporting children who are diagnosed with neurodevelopmental disorder called Rett syndrome. We are looking for support and assistance from the government to expedite research for diseases like these, where there is no treatment presently available. And we would like the government to support and do specific policy, maybe an offer with policy which is going to be useful and necessary to expedite and make sure that the research is fast enough in the country to make treatment and therapies available for such diseases.
Karanveer Anand wants to study rare diseases. A student of Bengaluru's MS Ramaiah Institute of Technology, this 18-year-old has a rare degenerative disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
I suffer from a rare disease, muscular dystrophy. So DART is taking care of muscular dystrophy in the form of treatment and care. But this is only one out of the 7,000 rare diseases. So I want to do something for the other remaining rare diseases.
And just celebrate him one last hurrah. We lost him last year at the age of 20. Today, if we consider the current scenario, a lot more is happening in DMD and a lot more of awareness is there. So today when you come like, okay, my child has got DMD, you know what it is, what it entails, what all is happening around the world and in India. But that time it was like really terrible.
Hi, this is Dhruv Shirpurkar, a Duchenne's muscular dystrophy warrior. Wishing you all a brave rare disease day. A person with a rare disease is just as rare as the disease itself. He may not be a typical normal person because of a limited limitations, but so is a gemstone, not the stone. A gemstone has its own unique, unforgettable beauty that no stone can replace, and so is a person with a rare disease.
As the parent of a child with disability, you often keep on wondering, whom should be blamed for this? What did I do to deserve this? And you never get an answer. And then you realize that it hardly matters because it is not going to change anything. What really matters is how tightly you can hold on and keep on fighting without giving up the faith.
We have to be really mentally very strong. Also, we have to look after our physical health. If we are not physically healthy, then we will not be able to give the right care and support to our children.
Go to school regularly. That's every human cannot breathe, they cannot stay alive. In my lifetime, I struggle to breathe every day. That Indian government, please bring every Indian warrior medicine.
Life with rare disease can be quite lonely, can be quite isolating, because we all experience life very differently from other people, but also from people within the same disease community as us. So yeah, today is a day when we can really come together and stand united and fight for a better world for ourselves. So yeah, here's a little bit of hope on World Rare Disease Day 2023.
The cost of the treatment is approximately 80 lakhs a year. Crowdfunding for 80 lakhs year on year for Priya's lifelong treatment with Risdiplam is that a sustainable solution? Does the government in our country provide us any support? Do insurance companies give us any support? The answer is no. It is our prayer from the deepest of our hearts to anybody who's listening to us to come forward, take this voice of all the SMA parents towards a much more inclusive result where such treatments can be made more accessible, because our children are mentally more than able to live this life.
Impact drug Risdiplam has had on my health is immense. I'm somebody who has been suffering from frequent bouts of respiratory disorders ever since I was a child. Every year I get 3 or 4 bouts of respiratory illness. Sometimes it would lead to bronchitis or even pneumonia sometimes. It used to be really, really severe, but after Risdiplam, my breathing has become much better. My neck control has become drastically better. And whatever deterioration I had seen in the couple of years before I started the medication, those deteriorations have started kind of get reversed.
We are celebrating the last day of February as Rare Disease Day in order to create the awareness about the rare disease among the general public and encourage researchers and decision makers to address needs of those living with rare diseases. Let's show the solidarity with the theme of share your colors, the light of our rare. Thank you.
Cure SMA Foundation of India, a pan-India government registered organization which is working for the individuals suffering from spinal muscular atrophy. Across India, we are working on creating awareness, setting up a multidisciplinary SMA clinic across India in collaboration with different hospitals so that patient has access to treatment and management. We are also strongly advocating with government for the urgent treatment access for each and every individual suffering from the disease. This disease is progressive disease and early intervention can change the course of the disease.
Although named as rare diseases, they are cumulatively common, comprising about 3.5 to 6% of the total population. Lack of scientific knowledge and quality information often leads to delays in diagnosis and management. And as these This delay causes heavy social and financial burden on the patients and their families. An equitable health system that meets the needs of people affected by rare diseases should be taken in order to leave no one behind with rare diseases.
Namaskar, I am Dr. Renu Sudhar, pediatric neurologist at PGI Chandigarh. Rare diseases are individually rare, but collectively they are common. About 300 million people in this world suffer from one or another rare disease. They present with relatively common signs and symptoms and remain hidden for several years. There is a considerable time lag for diagnosis of a rare disease. Lack of scientific knowledge and quality information contribute to the delayed diagnosis. In fact, most of these diseases are uncurable, adds to the pain and suffering. On this Rare Disease Day, we support our families, children and parents affected with rare disease and spread awareness about them. Thank you.
There we can just have final messages from everyone. Meanwhile, I will just start. I think we can start with Dr. I.C. Verma, sir. We can have final messages from all, and then in meanwhile, I can just see. Yeah,
I think we should all put our heads together and start working for therapies. I think the diagnostic facilities are reasonably good, but we have to pass on the message to the common pediatrician how to not to miss the diagnosis and to refer early. But we, the experts, must put our heads together how to now develop workforce therapy. If we know one person, one group, they should teach the others because it's a national cause. And I think basically it's not difficult. I think once you know, I think it's a straightforward. There is a machine who make the antisense oligonucleotides, and there are programs available on the internet. They will develop if you put the sequence, they will tell you what antisense oligonucleotide you need to develop. That's all I have. There is one group in Canada, they have put it on the web that you can use this software and develop your own antisense oligonucleotide. So maybe we should get them, use the Ministry of Health, invite them or use ICMR and let them give talks here. That may be one way to go ahead. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Madhurika ma'am?
Yeah, so I would like to emphasize that awareness has increased, but it has to increase further. So early diagnosis remains the key, even if we are talking of treatment, and then diagnosis is extremely important for prevention also. And the most important thing is that all the stakeholders need to come together and share and do whatever best possible can be done, which includes increasing awareness, more diagnostics available, early diagnosis, counseling and prevention, and development of therapy. So everybody has to come together, including the researchers and scientists, and work together in this area. And I'm sure that after some time, we will be at par with the developed world, and our patients will get the kind of care the patients are getting outside. So outside India. So I think it is important that we all work together, and whatever is possible from our side, we should do it. So that's my message. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. B.S. Charan.
Yeah, thank you. I think Madhurika ma'am has briefly summarized. As a teamwork, surely we will succeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Prasanna Shirod.
First of all, I just want to inform Dr. I.C. Verma that recently in IAP conference, they have launched the training of the trainers program on genetics and rare simplified. We have worked with Dr. Upendra, who is the president of IAP, and they have launched it. I think that is another good step. Then, having said that, we need to empower patient group, and definitely we are very positive. And thanks to Dr. B.S. Charan for bringing that insight from the government. and also observing the first Rare Disease Day celebration day for yesterday, which with all these developments and policy in place and the strong word given by him, we patient feel that yes, definitely a first step is taken, and we are hopeful, and over a period of time a lot of things will come from the government, and we need to work towards the empowering the patient, and all our activities need to be patient focused or a patient led when it comes to rare disease, is what I say. Thank you.
Dr. Beena.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for making me the part of this webinar. I think this is a very strong guide for me to take way forward in my country, how to take way forward for the rare diseases. Because in my country, it is a very preliminary stage. So we have just a few days back, we have formed a rare disease association, and I am one of the member of it. And it is really wonderful to know that so many things are, happening in India regarding the rare diseases. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Shefali, ma'am, for inviting me in this webinar.
Thanks for joining, Beena.
I think I would fully endorse what Dr. Verma is saying, and I think research is the key, and we should, make all efforts to expedite research within the country. And I think it's time for. I think there needs to be several measures that we need to look at. And I think one of the things that comes, in the forefront is an orphan drug policy. Because unless and until you incentivize the pharma companies to start looking at research and investing money into research for rare diseases, I think it is going to be a difficult and a challenging task. That even if we have funds, the question is who's going to do the research, who will take that lead to be able to do that. I mean, we can't keep looking at the West to say that we need solutions for the problems that we have within the country. And I think that's what the key is. And I would actually convey this to the government as well, that it's very nice and it's very good that they are extending financial support to patients with rare diseases. But I think the long-term goal should be to set the research initiatives in the correct perspective and take lead in terms of incentivizing, giving them more support, what the industry requires, the pharma industry requires, so that research can be done within the country.
Thank you very much, Verma sir. Thank you, Dr. Charan.
Thank you,
Dr. Madhulika.
So nice to see Dr. Verma today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mahesh.
Good night, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.